Hey there, and welcome to the Deep Dive. If you're listening, well, chances are you've recently welcomed a little one into your life, and you're navigating that amazing, sometimes crazy world of new parenthood.
It's quite the ride, isn't it?
It really is. And you want to give your child, the absolute best start. That's exactly what we're digging into today. We've gone through a whole stack of research articles, all sorts of stuff, to pull out the really key insights on something simple but incredibly powerful.
Something you can actually do every day.
Exactly. Reading to your child every night. We want to help you skip feeling overwhelmed by all the info out there and just get the important bits.
Get straight to the good stuff.
Yeah. So our mission today, it's pretty straightforward. Understand how this simple nightly thing impacts your child's development, their thinking, their feelings, how they connect, even their future success down the line.
It's amazing how much is packed into that one little ritual.
Totally. Okay, let's unpack this.
Right. So, as you're probably seeing right now, those first few years are just, well, an explosion of growth for your child. Especially cognitively. How they learn to talk, play, figure things out.
It happens so fast.
It really does. And reading, it turns out, is one of the key everyday things that really fuels all that cognitive development.
It's kind of amazing what's happening inside their heads, isn't it? Our sources talk about how their brains are just buzzing, making connections, synapses firing off like crazy.
Yeah, it's called synapse creation. And at the same time, the connections they don't use much sort of get twinned back.
Okay, so use it or lose it, basically.
Pretty much. It makes the pathways they do use stronger, more efficient, which is why doing things like reading regularly is so important. It's actively strengthening those key brain pathways for learning.
Like working out a muscle, but for their brain?
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. Reading gives their brain that consistent workout. And one of the first things you often notice is this huge leap in their language skills.
Oh yeah, the language explosion. It feels like 1 minute they're just making sounds, the next they're actually talking.
And those bedtime stories play a really big part. The research shows reading exposes them to way more words and more different kinds of words than they usually hear in just everyday chat.
So a richer vocabulary.
A much richer vocabulary.
Yeah.
And it's not just the words themselves, it's understanding how they fit together, the context, the different shades of meaning.
Right, not just memorizing.
Exactly. And the research on this is, pretty clear. Kids read too regularly. They show much bigger vocabulary growth. It's significant.
And that sticks with them, right? It's not just a toddler thing.
Oh, absolutely. There was this one statistic that really jumped out that teens who read for fun tend to know about 26% more words than those who don't.
Wow, 26%.
Yeah. So that early start really builds a foundation that just keeps expanding their language world for years.
It's like you said, planting seeds. But, okay, it's not just about knowing tons of words, is it? It's also how they learn to, use language to connect.
Precisely. Books are fantastic models for communication. They show kids different ways to say things, different writing styles, and maybe most importantly, how feelings and ideas get across through words, through dialogue. So as they listen, they're kind of soaking up how to express their own thoughts and feelings and how to start figuring out what others are feeling too.
Which I guess leads right into empathy. That makes a lot of sense. Stepping into someone else's shoes through a story.
It does. And it's fascinating because stories let kids explore all these different viewpoints, different ways people think and feel, totally outside their own little world.
Yeah.
And doing that over and over is like empathy training. It helps them develop that core ability to understand and even share what someone else is feeling. It's foundational for their social skills, their emotional intelligence.
So it's not just about being smart. It's about being a well-rounded little person who can connect with others.
Exactly. Developing the whole child.
In that quiet time, cuddled up with a book, it feels like it's doing more than just getting them sleepy.
Oh, definitely. That emotional bond, that closeness during reading time, it's huge for a young child. It creates this safe, predictable, comforting space.
A little ritual.
Yeah, a ritual.
Yeah.
That routine, the physical closeness, it reinforces feeling loved, feeling secure, which is just vital for their emotional well-being. It can honestly turn bedtime from a potential battle into something really positive and connecting for both of you.
I think any new parent listening would appreciate that. And the stories themselves also help with social and emotional stuff, right? Beyond just the bonding.
Yes, absolutely. Stories are like safe little labs for exploring feelings and social situations. Kids identify with characters who might be scared or figuring out a fight or making friends.
Yeah.
And experiencing that even secondhand helps them build skills like self-regulation, managing their own big feelings and perspective taking, seeing things from another angle.
And you mentioned different kinds of empathy.
Right, there's cognitive empathy. That's like understanding why a character thinks or acts a certain way.
Right.
What's their motivation?
Yeah.
And then there's affective empathy, that's feeling with the character, that emotional connection. And interestingly, really getting lost in a story, what researchers call transportation.
It's like getting totally sucked in.
Exactly. That seems particularly good at boosting that emotional empathy. Some studies even suggest it might make kids more likely to be helpful in real life later on.
Wow. So a simple story could actually be nudging them towards being more compassionate.
That's pretty incredible. Yeah. And shifting gears a bit, it sounds like all this reading also pays off, like academically.
Big time. The link between writing habits and school success is really strong. There are studies like one from Owell and Dudacoca that clearly show how important reading is for overall academics performance.
And it's not just about like memorizing facts for tests. The sources mention creativity and critical thinking too.
Definitely. Reading regularly really seems to spark creativity and sharpen those critical thinking muscles. There was that joint study, Appalachian State and Angeles State, I think, looking at college students.
Yeah. They found students who read for pleasure were actually more creative and had more internal motivation in their studies.
Huh. So it helps them think outside the box.
Exactly. That imaginative thinking you get from stories, it spills over, it helps kids approach problems differently, brainstorm better, make decisions better. It's about building a more flexible, questioning mind.
And going back to language skills, it's not just knowing words, but understanding what you read and then being able to talk about it clearly.
Precisely. Reading builds comprehension, understanding meaning, context, how ideas connect in a story. That's vital for school, for pretty much every subject.
Right.
And like we said, that feeds directly into better communication, being able to explain their thoughts, have good discussions, respond thoughtfully. Reading pushes them to analyze, to think critically about what they're taking in.
It really all seems connected. You even mentioned memory improvement, which makes sense. Following plots, characters, new words.
It's a constant mental workout for memory. Engaging with stories, learning new vocabulary, it strengthens those memory-related brain pathways. Which isn't just for school stuff, it helps in everyday life too. Remembering names, tasks, all those little things.
So it really feels like you're building this incredibly solid foundation for, well, learning throughout their whole lives.
That's exactly it. Those basic literacy skills, knowing sounds, building vocabulary, understanding what you read, they're the bedrock. Nurturing those early on with reading aloud, you're setting your child up for long-term success, for being someone who keeps learning and engaging with the world.
It's like those stories are literally weaving themselves into who they become. And our sources also mentioned a deeper psychological impact, going beyond just the thinking and school stuff.
Yes, and that link between reading fiction and emotional empathy comes up again. That Bowell and Veltkamp research really emphasized how getting transported by a story builds a child's capacity for empathy.
Feeling what the character feels.
Right. And they even found potential links to being more helpful, more interested in things like charity.
Just from getting lost in a book. That's powerful. And what about just the routine of reading at bedtime? Does that have its own psychological pluses?
It really does. It's calming, it's predictable. It signals to their brain and body, okay, time to wind down now. That helps create a smoother transition to sleep, which is obviously crucial.
Better sleep is always good.
Always. And that consistent routine also builds that sense of security we talked about, which boosts their emotional health overall.
And it loops back to creativity and liking learning too, right?
Exactly. Make reading fun and positive early on, and you foster this lifelong appreciation for books and learning. Plus, engaging with stories lights up different parts of the brain, even areas involved in decision-making and memory. That helps them navigate challenges, both social and academic, as they grow.
So these aren't just temporary boosts. These effects can really last, ripple out over years. What are some of those key long-term effects?
Well, cognitively, that early reading strengthens brain pathways and boosts activity long-term. Remember that Emory study? Brain activity stayed elevated even days after reading.
Wow.
And obviously, the better vocabulary and comprehension sets them up for lifelong learning.
And emotionally and socially, those benefits stick around too.
Definitely. Being able to relate to characters facing similar stuff can really help kids feel less alone as they grow up and face challenges. And that increased empathy we keep mentioning, That leads to better relationships, a better understanding of people throughout life.
And this point was really striking, the idea that reading can actually act as a buffer against tough childhood experiences.
ACs.
Yes, adverse childhood experiences. This is really important. Research suggests that positive, nurturing interactions like reading together can actually help lessen the negative long-term health impacts that stress and adversity can have.
So it builds resilience.
It builds resilience, exactly. These positive experiences act like protective factors, supporting their emotional health even when things are tough. Okay, this is all incredibly convincing. But for a new parent, maybe feeling overwhelmed already, how do you actually do this consistently? Any practical tips?
Yeah, great question. The main thing is consistency over perfection and keeping it enjoyable. First off, pick books they actually like. High-interest stuff.
They'll get excited about.
Exactly. Maybe characters they love, themes they're into right now.
Mm-hmm.
Book series can be great for that, keeping them hooked, wanting the next one.
Makes sense. What else?
Try to create a literacy-rich environment. Just having books around, visible, easy to grab. Maybe a cozy reading corner, weave literacy into playtime sometimes. It just makes books feel like a normal, fun part of life.
So it's not only about the bedtime story, but making books accessible all day.
Right. And talk about the stories.
Yeah.
Ask open-ended questions while you read, like, ooh, what do you think happens next? Or, how do you think she feels? That boosts their language and thinking skills.
With prompts.
And don't forget just telling your own stories. Little anecdotes from your day or totally made-up silly ones, that counts too.
Oh, that's a great point. Doesn't always have to be a book. What if a parent notices their child is struggling a bit with reading later on?
Yeah, that happens. The key then is to monitor their progress and get support if needed. Talk to their teacher, see what they're noticing.
Keep those communication lines open.
Definitely. And if you have real concerns, don't hesitate to look into reading specialists. They can offer specific help.
Okay. And really, the bottom line sounds like just establishing that routine, however imperfectly, and trying to stick with it.
Absolutely. That consistency, even just a few minutes each night, builds the habit. It reinforces that reading is important and hopefully enjoyable. It builds concentration too. Consistency really is the name of the game.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, our deep dive shows that reading every night, it's way more than just a nice way to end the day. It's like this powerful investment in your child's whole development.
Brain, language, emotions, social skills, school. It touches everything.
Everything. And for you, listening as a new parent wanting the best, this simple act, it holds just incredible potential. Here's where it gets really interesting. Think about how this quiet little ritual, night after night, isn't just setting them up for school tests. It's laying the groundwork for a life filled with empathy, with curiosity, a real understanding of the world and the people in it. What kind of stories are you going to choose to start that amazing journey?
It's a great question to ponder.
Thank you so much for diving deep with us on this. It's such an important topic. We definitely encourage you to explore more if you're interested. There's lots out there.
Keep reading.
So what does this all mean? It means you've got this incredibly powerful tool right at your fingertips to make a genuine, lasting difference. One bedtime story at a time.